What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Here we are with another reaction, and in this one we have, will the West tolerate India's rise as superpower? That's a very good question. I'm very intrigued to hear the answer. Based off the videos I've seen, no. Based off the videos I've seen, I don't think the West will. It seems like the West likes to nitpick at India and try to show India in a bad light. Even when India is making such great strides and accomplishments. I mean, however, the West does have a relationship with India at the moment, but I don't necessarily see them being tolerant of India's rise as a superpower. We're gonna hear what Abhijit Chavda has to say about it. If you guys happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give a video a thumbs up, and if you would like to support the channel by becoming a member, hit that join button to receive your exclusive benefits. Let's see what we got.
China has become a powerful country to reckon with. Yes, all that. So if one day India becomes an economic powerhouse like the US and China, is there a possibility of these Western countries plus the US treating India, treating us the same way they are treating China?
That's a good
Yes,
question.
this is a wonderful question, brilliant question.
Yeah.
So see, here's the thing about NATO and the US alliances. The objective of these alliances, of NATO or any other alliance the US has, the Five Eyes alliance or any other alliance, the objective is simple. It has a one-point agenda to ensure that the United States remains the primary superpower, the only hegemonic force in the world.
Exactly.
It is to ensure the continuity of US supremacy and hegemony. That's all. That's a one-point agenda.
I completely agree with that. Based off videos I've seen, and I've reacted to not just videos of India, but videos of multiple countries and videos about the U.S. dealings in multiple countries, I 100% agree with what he is saying. I think that's the U.S.'s #1 agenda, to remain the superpower, to remain the primary superpower in the world. And it's from history that I've heard about the U.S. dealings in other countries and all the things and that they've done in other countries to overthrow people, to rob, to loot, to do so many things in the name of remaining that primary superpower. It's just kind of scary to think of. Yeah, them seeing another competitor as a primary superpower. I guess right now they're looking at China, and that's why those tensions are there. But yeah, I think those problems will be had with any country whose U.S. sees as a threat to them being the primary superpower.
Only serves the US in the long run. Yes, it does throw some crumbs at its allies, etc. But even when it comes to the Five Eyes alliance, the five Anglo-Saxon nations, the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. So these are five nations with the same ethnic structure, the ethnic origin, and the geographical origin, the UK. Even in this alliance, which is supposedly the closest alliance at all, Five Eyes, even in this alliance, the US treats every other country as a junior partner. In the 1990s or 2000s, I believe, the US sold some fighter aircraft to the Australians, and the Australians found that they could not use them to target anything except what the US wanted them to. So the code inside the computers of these fighter plane would not allow Australians to target certain targets.
That's
they need to take permission from the Americans to do that. So basically, these fighter planes that were sold to the Australians,
I'm not surprised,
were useless.
So that's crazy, but I'm not surprised. It's insane, but I am not surprised one bit.
That's how they treat even their closest allies. And then the Australians had to re-engineer the entire computer code in order to make the planes work and be actual owners of the plane, of these aircraft. These F-16s, I think, or F-18s, I'm not sure. One of those two. So the United States will not ever tolerate any country trying to rise to its level. And the strange thing is that the rise of China is all thanks to the US. It's an enormous strategic blunder on the part of Richard Nixon and Henry Kissinger. So they thought they could prop China up against the USSR. In another episode, I had spoken about the fact that China and the USSR nearly went to war. The Soviets had actually considered very seriously nuking the Chinese. It was Kissinger, it was
Nuking?
Nixon who intervened and threatened the Russians with a reprisal if they were to nuke China, and that's how they saved China. And then they had this diplomacy with the Chinese, and they agreed to support China's industrialization process in the hope
Dang.
they naively believed that if China were to become stronger, more industrialized, and more prosperous, then it would naturally become a democracy. How naive and foolish that sounds today. But it is
Yeah,
the Americans that have basically helped China rise to where it is today.
that's
China
crazy.
would never have risen to where it is today.
I'm glad I got to watch this video because I knew nothing about that. But I'm telling you that the U.S. is literally always interfering in everybody else's situations because the U.S. is going to make sure the U.S. is a primary superpower. It's going to look out for its best interest at the cost, at whatever cost, unfortunately. But I am glad that they stopped the USSR from nuking China. Like I wouldn't have wanted them to get nuked. But U.S. supporting China's industrialization. Didn't know about that. Didn't know the U.S. playing such a big part in the reason that China is the superpower that they are today. I guess they thought, like you said, they thought it was going to lead to them becoming a democracy, but that was very naive thinking on the U.S.'s part, and now you got China competing as a superpower.
If it were not for American support throughout the decades since the 1970s, since the late 1960s and early 1970s. So today, America has woken up to the fact that China is potentially an existential threat for them, and therefore they are doing everything they can to some extent, to to slow the Chinese rise down. If India were to try and rise to that level, it would invite similar, if not harsher, reactions from the United States and from the entire Western world, which is essentially, well, it is essentially run and managed by the United States. So yes, they would treat us not the way they are treating China. They would treat us worse than they treat China, because India is not a strong military power or strong economic power comparable to China. India's economy is much smaller than China's economy. India doesn't have the economic networks and all the alliances and all the dependencies of other countries the way China has. China has been systematically building this up since the
Yeah,
1980s. So even when China was a small, impoverished economy, it was still thinking like a global power. It was
that's
planning
crazy.
to be a global power
That's
step by step by
crazy.
step. So that is what India lacks. But if India were to aspire to do that, and if India were to take steps to do that, it would invite similar responses from the US and from the West. And you see this all the time. India is slowly rising as an economy
Yeah,
and in some other ways, and you can see the hostile reaction of the Western media towards India. It's like
yeah,
hostile across the board.
yeah,
They try and focus on only the negatives. They try and
yeah.
portray India in an extremely negative manner. So you see that all the time anyway. So if India were to really start rising, then God forbid, the reactions will be much harsher.
Yeah, it's crazy to actually think about, but yeah, I completely understood that before even going in. That question was a no brainer to me. It's just after I watch all the videos that I've watched and learning about the U.S.'s history. Yeah, they don't want competition as a primary superpower. They don't want anybody to reach that level. So yeah, China reaching that level is an issue. I didn't know it was a problem that they brought upon themselves. But of course, the U.S. sees that as a problem. India wanting to rise to that level, the U.S. would see that as a problem. Uh, Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section. I'm very interested in what you guys have to say. If you happen to enjoy, please don't forget to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and check out the next one. I'll see you guys next time.